us, and good morning to you. I want to thank Secretary Dan Brouillette for coming to Louisiana, and welcome home, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you.
Appreciate you joining us this morning. Certainly wish it was under better circumstances, but as you know, we're going to work extremely hard and to get people back on their feet. And also that means getting our energy sector back up and working, whether it's our refineries or our electric companies. We just completed a roundtable discussion with industry leaders representing most of the electric companies that operate in Louisiana, but also a couple of refineries in the Port of Lake Charles, as well as public service commissioners and so forth. And so you have a good appreciation of the damage that was done by the storm and the work that's already taking place and what else needs to be done. And there's nothing quite like a firsthand visit to get that information. So we appreciate you being here. And this is critically important for us because energy drives Louisiana's economy, and Louisiana energy drives the country. So this is critically important for the nation as well. You know, just over half of the total U.S. refining capacity is located along the Gulf Coast. And the COVID-19 situation makes all this much more difficult. The volatility recently of the oil and gas markets, the Hurricane Laura, all of this has converged to create a very challenging situation. And to have your personal presence here and attention to these matters is critically important and reassuring to us. And we see a tremendous opportunity for energy in Louisiana going forward. And so energy just isn't part of our present and our past. This is going to be a huge part of our future, even if it looks a little different than it has in the past. So we're encouraged about having an energy secretary in Washington with deep roots in Louisiana. You know our state's energy assets and what our opportunities are. And this is going to be critical to our recovery, as you know, and these are historic challenges. The strongest storm to ever make impact in Louisiana, with the possible exception of an 1856 storm, and I'm not sure how they measured storm strength back then. And then just catastrophic damage to people's homes, to businesses, to infrastructure, and as you know, to the electric grid as well. Restoring power is one of our top concerns right now. We know that's not going to happen overnight. And so we just want to thank you for being here. I do hope that you're encouraged by the resiliency that you've seen, the great spirit of the people of Louisiana. And we look forward to working with you and all the folks on your team. And by your team, I mean at the Department of Energy, but also all of the federal government. And we've had great communication and coordination with them thus far. And so I want to thank you for that and give you an opportunity to make some remarks as well.
Well, Governor, thank you. Even under the circumstances, it's always good to be back home. So thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to visit. Thank you for the opportunity to hear firsthand the needs of the state, the needs of the people of Louisiana. You know, as I said earlier in our briefings, it's nice to get the briefings inside the Beltway. It's nice to be in Washington, D.C. and hear what's going on the ground, but nothing can replace a face-to-face conversation and laying eyeballs on the work that needs to be done. And I want you to know that I sincerely appreciate the coordination and collaboration with your office, your team, the entire team. And I want to say thank you for that. And also thank you for all of the first responders, the state troopers, the National Guard, the sheriff's offices, the parish presidents, everyone, the firemen who've been on the ground and helping us begin this recovery. It's been a tremendous response, and it really brings out and shows not only the best of America, but the best of Louisiana. So thank you for that. What we learned this morning in the briefings, you know, this has been a tremendous hit to the state of Louisiana. And as the governor pointed out, it's been a tremendous hit to the United States of America. The energy industry here drives so much of the economy across the world. And, you know, as I like to point out in the briefings that I have with people around the country, energy makes up roughly 8% of the nation's gross domestic product, or GDP. But importantly, we have to remember it makes up the first 8% of our GDP. And what I mean by that is that everything in the United States economy depends upon the provision of energy, be it electricity, oil and gas, you name it. We can't do much. And as we look at these types of events today, the recovery depends upon the restoration of electricity and other forms of energy. So we're working very, very closely with you and your team. I'm happy to report that a lot of the restoration has already occurred. 75% or so of the lost of the outages have been restored. That being said, there is still much work to be done, and it will take some time to get it done. What we learned and what we have seen firsthand is that the destruction to the transmission grid in particular is devastating. There's no other way to say it. 1,000 or so, perhaps a little bit more than that, towers have been damaged or destroyed. We've replaced some of them have been replaced already, but nonetheless, these are very, very difficult things to replace. It takes some time to do, and we're still a couple of weeks away from complete total restoration. But I'm happy to report the industry has responded incredibly well. 29 states have sent linemen as well as other types of technical experts to help this restoration work. There's nearly 30,000 employees from around the country, including from Louisiana as well, who are after this work each and every day. So I'm proud of the work that's being done, and I look forward to working with you, your team, and the industry to complete this process.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Okay, and with that, we're going to take our first question, and we are going to go to Sabrina Wilson with WVUE TV Fox 8 in New Orleans. Sabrina, you have the first question. Please unmute your line.
Good morning. Governor, what specific requests, if any, have you made of the Energy Secretary as it relates to the aftermath and recovery from Hurricane Laura?
Well, Sabrina, thank you for the question. First of all, I want you to know that my communications with the Secretary didn't start today. They started well over a week ago, and I've had an opportunity to speak with him and with his Deputy Secretary. And so we've been talking all along about the damage that was done to the infrastructure, the help that we're going to need in Louisiana, not just immediately, but potentially working with Congress to get a community disaster block grant funding for disaster recovery, and trying to figure out what parts of those requests he and his agency may be able to assist with. As you know, this is a difficult time. If you just look at Congress, it hasn't been able to get a second stimulus package through, and we got an election coming up, followed by a lame duck Congress. So I'm enlisting his help to help us make sure, working with our congressional delegation, that we can put together proposals that will benefit the entire state of Louisiana, but specifically the energy industry as it comes to the Secretary. So we've had those conversations. I will tell you, he's already been very responsive, because he's authorized certain things at his level that give our energy companies, our electric companies, more options, more tools in the toolkit to repower Louisiana. You know, for example, his authorization is required for us to be able to take advantage of certain things that are out of state. So we know that the state of Texas is right next door to the area that was most damaged. And so he's allowed us to take advantage of some power generation in Texas to get more or less what I like to call an extension cord into Louisiana to help power up some communities. And you saw that come on in the communities of Toomey and Starks and in far western Calcasieu Parish much faster than would have happened without his assistance. So I just want to assure you and everyone who's listening that they've been part of this from the very beginning, and we've already had some real benefits from his actions. And then we know that going forward, we're going to have to continue to do some work. You know, we're sourcing transformers and these transmission towers all over the country. And so having the U.S. Department of Energy understand just the scope and the severity of the damage, it really helps us to do that as we reach out to different states and take advantage of their stockpiled assets, whether it's transformers, utility poles for distribution, or the large towers. And so we've been working with him all along, and it's not a single request, it's a bunch of requests, Sabrina, and he's been very receptive and very helpful.
You want me to add to that, Governor?
Please.
Sure, if I could just add to the governor's comments, this conversation began between the governor and I a week or so ago, perhaps a little longer than that by now. But Governor, it actually began with you and the President of the United States, and I'm following up here at the request of the President to be on the ground to see even more specifically what are the things that we can do as a federal government to help assist this recovery. And as the Governor mentioned out, I recently signed an emergency order that allows power to be brought in from Texas. The next step in this process, apart from the direct recovery of hooking up lines, is going to be to see how we might assist in helping harden some of this infrastructure. Being a Louisiana native, I know that hurricanes are a fairly common event here. And I might also add, Governor, my deputy, Mark Menzies, is also from Louisiana. He's from Luling, Louisiana. So none of us are strangers to this type of activity. We all understand that as we rebuild some of this infrastructure, we want to make it even more resilient in the future. So I will work closely with your office. I will work closely with the congressional delegation as Congress begins to move forward to ensure that we have funding to make this infrastructure even better than it was pre-Laura.
And our next question is going to come from Tim Gardner with Reuters. Please unmute your line.
Good morning. Thank you. I have a two-part question. First part being, could one or both of you give us an update of the state of chemical plants? As I understand it, there's a bunch down, and certain products that go into home building are being affected by that. Did see headlines that Westlake is supposed to be up later this month and then fully back in October. Is that generally how that industry is going? Is it slowly recovering? The second question is for the Secretary, please an update on West Hackberry, the strategic petroleum site. We understand it's undergone considerable damage.
Well, Tim, thank you very much for the question. So we've got a number of chemical manufacturing facilities and refineries located in Southwest Louisiana, LNG facilities, and they all were very, very responsible pre-storm. First, in the way that they were constructed, but secondly, knowing the impact of the storm. We heard from 2 refineries today, one of which shut down for only the second time in 76 years for the storm. It's not yet back up and running, but because they shut down the way they did not sustain catastrophic damage. But there are some things that they're having to work on, and they do have the power necessary to do that. They don't yet have the electric power in order to start production. So there's going to be some period of time while they continue to work to stand their facilities up, while the electric companies work to restore the power, principally through the transmission lines. And then initially they're going to be able to power up residential, commercial, industrial users of power, but without the full set of redundancy that they would typically have. And so they're going to have to work especially closely with the industry partners there so that they know what limitations there are going to be, because we might have power to the entire region within the next 2 to 3 weeks or so, but there's going to be continued work to make sure that we have the full array of redundancy that they're accustomed to, because once you get into the production, you don't want to lose power. So those are some issues that they're going to be working with for a long time. But I will tell you the issues with getting some of these plants back operational, it's not just the power, it's not just the damage, it's the workers and trying to get them back close enough to where they can actually come to work, because so many of the residences were damaged or destroyed. And so that's a real challenge for the private sector. It's a challenge for our universities, our hospitals. It's a challenge for Lake Charles and the parish of Calcasieu and Cameron. So all of this has to be worked at the same time. But I will tell you, I was very impressed with the degree to which they're working, how much they're helping their employees, and they're helping the community down at the same time. I'm talking about the refineries and the other chemical manufacturers. Mr. Secretary?
Sure. Thank you, Governor. Absolutely correct. I've talked to many of the companies who operate the refineries in the area. Happy to report that the damage, while significant, is not going to permanently damage operations there. We would expect to see many of them coming online as soon as we can restore power to the area. it's a bit of a mixed blessing here in the sense that we have a COVID pandemic, which has depressed demand for refined product like gasoline, diesel, and jet fuel over the course of the last few months. That's allowed inventories to build up. So I'm happy to report that there aren't many shortages of refined product that is being reported across the not only lower part of Louisiana, but other parts of the United States as well. That will allow these refineries a little extra time, if you will, to come online and to assess damages. But so far, so good with regard to the refineries. The governor's absolutely correct. The biggest concern right now is with the employees and the workers and the residents of the area. Later today, when I leave here, I'm going to go over to West Hackberry and do a damage assessment of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, which it's comprised of 4 sites, 2 in Texas, 2 in Louisiana. 3 of them are fine. The damage is minimal. One of them, obviously West Hackberry, took a direct hit by the hurricane. Damage there, I'm told, is significant. I will see it later today. We will be able to repair that. The Strategic Petroleum Reserve overall is functional. And if we had to execute a drawdown today at the direction of the president, I would be able to do that as the Secretary of Energy pretty easily, even without the West Hackberry site. But nonetheless, we're going to repair that site as aggressively as we can. But my immediate concern is much like the governor's. It's the people who have to work at that site. Many of them have lost their homes, and we're going to work to see what we can do to mitigate the pain and suffering that they are currently feeling.
As a reminder to our reporters, if you're interested in asking a question, please click yes now so that we can see who wants to ask a question. And with that, we're going to go to Greg Hilburn with Gannett. Please unmute your line.
Governor, Energy reported today that it was going to energize the first of the 9 transmission lines into Lake Charles. At your roundtable, what did they say that would mean? What will that do as far as the progression?
Well, I think you've already seen Entergy already energize certain portions of Calcasieu Parish. And this is just the next step in a multi-step process that's going to unfold over the coming days and literally weeks. And they have to synchronize how much power they get into the area with the load that can be the load is going to be serviced, because you can't have those things out of balance. And so you're gonna see more lights on. You're gonna see more retail come in online. But it's going to be a relatively modest step. And so we don't want to overstate it. Calcasieu Parish is right now right around 90% out still. And so only 10% with power. This is just going to be a modest step. And some people's lives are obviously going to be improved. But what I think everybody can take some sense of satisfaction with is that Entergy is working very, very hard to make progress every single day as they were able to do it, to bring more power back online and to power up more homes, more businesses, more light signals on the roads. And most importantly, those life systems like water and wastewater and hospitals, those are critically important. And so they're trying to prioritize the regeneration of power to make sure that those things are taken care of first.
And we don't have any more questions in the queue. Governor, Secretary, if you would like to closing comments.
Well, just again, I want to thank the Secretary for coming, and I know that he's going to be with us for the long haul. He understands that this is very much a marathon. Although you want to make as much progress as soon as you can, it's going to take quite a while to repair all the damage, and then even then, we're going to be looking for some help in various ways, but particularly in Congress with the reimbursement of damages and so forth, trying to protect ratepayers as best we can. So I just want to thank him again for his visit, ask him to come back anytime, and to wish him well on his trip over to West Hackberry.
Thank you, Governor, for that. I will be with you every step of the way. Everything that we can do on our side of the government, the executive branch of the government, we will do. The president has taken some very aggressive steps. He's directed me to take some very aggressive steps. We've already delivered roughly $7 billion in SBA loans to approximately 80,000 businesses across the state of Louisiana. I look forward to doing more of that. And if there is anything at all I can do for my home state, know that I will.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you, everyone, and we will make this recording available to you. Please contact us at govprexla.gov. Thank you all.
So happy